Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the Frontline Changes Report and it's brought to you by the DPA Open Mic, the sponsor of this video. And do check it out, DPA Open Mic. You may find it interesting where we geek it out talking about geopolitics, military and war. There is quite a number of Frontline Changes Report. So we have Strelicia, Mokovets, Lukansi, Burvaka, Novoporovsky, Semenivka, Netilove, Krasnohorivka, Verbove, and Robotine. So it's actually across the entire front line. There are frontline changes, and almost all of them is in favor of the Russians. We're going to start off with the Kharkiv front region. So the Russian forces continue to make advance in the Kharkiv front. As you can see, the lines are very complicated because of so many claims and captures and geolocations. According to the Ukrainian mapping, Russian forces have actually taken the entire southern part of Strelica, and they are heading towards Kliboke. Or Gliboke. The fighting is currently actually in this area here, over at Klipove. And based on Russian information, they're claiming that the Russians are actually already heading towards Lipsy. And there is also geolocations confirming some Russian positions. Another geolocation over here confirming Russian positions, and which means that the Russians also have taken Lukansi. Of course, this is also based on Ukrainian mapping. So the Russian forces is now definitely at least at this line. They are now moving around this area here. Ukrainian forces clearly is trying to fight back. If not, the advance would be faster. The Ukrainians are fighting back and over at Lukiansi region and Hiliboke region. So this is the current situation right now over in this Lipsy sector of the Kharkiv front. And there is also advance over in the Zeline region, and the Ukrainian mapping Deep State UA has declared that Zeline has been captured by the Russian forces. Wrong color. So the Russians are actually pushing for Neshkushne right now. So based on Russian information, the Ukrainians are making it really difficult for the Russians to push out of Zeline. So, but at least we have this corroboration that Zeline has been captured by the Russian side. So of course, in the same information about the capture, the Ukrainians also have acknowledged that Murokovets and Olinikove has been captured by the Russian forces. This is a corroboration. We have already reported the capture. So over at this Staritsia sector, based on the Russian mapping, they have claimed that the Russian forces have now closed up towards the Buruvaka settlement, and also they have filled up this entire gap between the two sector and confirming the fighting over at Staritsia. So the based on Ryba, the Russian source, they say that this is based on Ukrainian information, basically the same information that we are actually looking at from Deep State UA, which allows them to change their mapping. So their own information actually do not actually do not know that there was a Russian attack towards Brovaka. So this is important to take note about how information travels. Not all sources have every information, and they have to they actually get information from their own sources, but their own sources information is not complete. Sometimes they look at other sources information, including from your enemies. So for example, Ryba look at Deep State UA. Deep State UA actually do look at Ryba, but Deep State usually do not reflect mappings from the Russian side. They usually reflect the mapping is actually from the Ukrainian side, but usually they will accept the change in the front line based on geolocations. Like for example, in this case, because there is clear geolocation, the footage is actually shown on the Ukrainian side, and they actually reflected in their own mapping because it's undisputable. So this is interesting. Something that you may not understand, you may not capture because you may not know because you are not doing the mapping, so you may not be looking at this on a daily basis. Russian forces is still being claimed to be attacking Lipsky according to the Russian mapping. So that's all for the frontline change over at this area here, and so that's all for the frontline changes in the Kharkiv front. The next frontline change is over at the Avdiivka front and Novoporovsky. We have a few frontline change around this area here, including Semenivka. So over at Novoporovsky in the south of Solovyove, Russian forces have taken another major tree lines and the immediate tree line on the eastern part of Novoporovsky. So the Russians are continuing their Avdiivka offensive. So a lot of course, I suspect a lot of people are just more, more excited about the Kharkiv front, but the Avdiivka front is continued to be this place where the Russians actually have a breakthrough, and they are still trying to exploit it. And the Ukrainians are trying their best to hold back the Russians. But you see, the Russians are still moving around in this area here, and some of this position at Semenivka, the Ukrainians finally acknowledged the Russian capture, Russian claims, and expanded on it, with the Russians taking another tree line, another tree around here, this tree line here, as well as these few tree lines are taken by the Russian side on the western part of Semenivka. So which means that the Russian forces have now expanded control around Semenivka, creating some kind of buffer zone around Avdiivka and Semenivka. So this is a rather important change for the Russian side in terms of, if you look at the strategic and tactical situation. So the Russians are continuing to push westward, and I'm not sure how committed are the Ukrainians in terms of defending all these grounds, because this is going to be really difficult to reach in terms of, if you are Ukrainian troops, imagine trying to go to this tree line. It must be horrendous. The way there, it must be so scary. So that's all from the Semenivka region. The next frontline change is south of this position over at the Battle of Netelove. This is one of these battles within the settlement that is very underreported, or probably very underinterested by most people. I almost never see people talk about it. Russian forces have taken more than half of Netelove, and they're expanding control at Netelove. So if you zoom in, you'll probably see that a few buildings have been taken by the Russian side, and they are expanding the control just off the school, and they are heading towards the western part of Netelove, which is not much grounds left to cover, I would say. The settlement is just merely a kilometer plus, just off a bit more over kilometers from the front line right now. So not a lot of grounds for the Russians to capture left in terms of Netelove. So the next frontline change is over at the Battle of Krasnohorivka. As I mentioned, major changes over the Battle of Krasnohorivka. As you can see, all these shadows left from the previous frontline changes. So the Russian forces have taken this school in the center of Krasnohorivka. So this is the main frontline change as per reflected on Ukrainian mapping. So and they will be able to start playing football right now because the field is just down here. At least they can actually at least they can play some small side football. And if not, they can actually go for running. So it's not that bad. So that's all for the Battle of Krasnohorivka. And the next frontline change is over at Verbove. So over at the Orikhiv sector, this is Orikhiv, and this is the Zaporizhia front's Orikhiv sector. Frontline change around at Verbove, with the Ukrainian mapping acknowledged that this entire area here is now on firm Russian control. The Russians have confirmed to have taken back this entire Surovikin line. This is a heavy entrenchment line around here. The Russians have retaken it, at least based on the Ukrainian side. In terms of the Russian side, this has already long time ago has already been taken by the Russians. So that's all from the Verbove. At Robotini region, based on the Ukrainian mapping, they still claim Ukrainian control over half of Robotini. So as such, the Ukrainian claims will come back in again, but this will just be gray zone. It will be a dual mapping. It will be an overlapping mapping between the Russian and the Ukrainian map. So these are the frontline changes report. Do press the like button, subscribe, check out for the wait for the sit rep. Stay tuned for it, and I will see you guys in the next update. And of course, press the like button, share it, and of course, check out the DPA open mic, and I'll see you guys in the next update.